What's going on, fellow engineers? In this video, I'm going to show you how to update Raspbian. If you have a Raspberry Pi, as you know, there are new versions of Raspbian that come out periodically. And so to keep your Pi functioning and to get the latest features that are available for your Raspberry Pi, you have to update Raspbian, which is the operating system for the Pi. So I'm going to show you how to do that and maybe a little bit more. Stay tuned. All right, so as you can see, I have already connected to my Raspberry Pi via a terminal. I am using the Raspberry Pi that's in the traffic light project. So if you're familiar to my channel and have seen some of the other videos related to traffic light, this is the Pi that runs that. If you're not familiar to my channel, I ask you to subscribe to the channel so that you can become familiar with more of the projects that I work on. All right, so the first thing I am going to do is to run Apt-Get update, and I'm going to run that with Sudo so that there are no user permissions or anything of that error, any of those type of errors that may come up. All right, the next thing that I am going to do is to show you how to pull up the version of Raspbian that you have on your system. So you're going to do cat etc and what is it? There it is. OS release. And so as you see here, the pretty name is Raspbian Linux 9 with the version in parentheses, which is this case is Stretch. And as you see here, it's also listed again here as Stretch, and the version code name is also here as Stretch. All right, so the next thing to do, I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen, is to run sudo apt-get dist upgrade -y. And as you see, there is no information here that says that it does not need to be updated. So one way around this is to actually edit the sources file. So you're going to do sudo nano. If you prefer VI, you can use VI. Etc apt and sources.list. All right, and so the only thing that really needs to change here is to change it to the latest version. And so the latest version at the time of this recording is called Buster. So you're going to change Buster there, and also going to change Buster here. And you're going to Control O, and then when the prompt comes up, hit enter to save, and you'll see it says wrote 3 lines. And then the next thing you need to do is to Control X to exit. All right, and then I'm going to run those same commands again, sudo apt-get update. All right, and now it's referencing the Buster version of the operating system. All right, and there is one more file that needs to be updated. So go to sudo etc apt sources, you could type it, list D, and then is it not there? Oh, I need to do nano, that's why it won't open. All right, and the raspi.list, and so the thing you'll need to do for this is also to change the list from Stretch to Buster. And I'm going to go ahead and change this one down here at the bottom as well. Even though it is commented out, I always like to make sure I update any references in there, and that way you don't run into any issues down in the future. All right, so going to save and close that file. The next command that is recommended to be ran is to remove the app list changes. So to do that is to do sudo apt-get remove, apt list changes. And this may take a little bit of time. All right, and so it says it's not installed, so therefore not removed, which is a good thing. All right, next, going to run sudo apt-get update again, just to make sure that anything else that may have been missed gets caught and is reloaded. And then sudo apt-get dist upgrade. And if you want to do this without having to respond to all of the prompts, you can put -y after it. However, I like to make sure I see everything that comes through right here. As you see, there are a number of packages here that have to be installed and a number of new packages that will be installed. And some other packages here that are no longer required as it states. So we'll go ahead and type in Y for yes and hit enter, and we'll let that run. So during the upgrade, you may get some prompts about some configuration settings that you have. This one is regarding Samba and the configuration file. As far as DNS win settings, that will automatically be read from the Samba file. I'm not really using Samba on here. I'm not sure if something else is. So you have a choice: either keep what you have or allow it to update the file. So I'm gonna go ahead and allow it to update the file. Here's another prompt that came up while doing the OS upgrade. So I know I'm doing the OS upgrade and nothing else should be running that would cause any problems to my knowledge. So I'm gonna go ahead and do yes. If you have something like maybe Home Assistant or some other system that you're using your Raspberry Pi for, you may want to be mindful of this and do it when you have some downtime. I know, like, if you're using Home Assistant and you restart some of those networking services, some of your systems that you have interfacing with Home Assistant may go offline, and that's something you probably don't want to happen unexpectedly. So I'm gonna go ahead and proceed with yes, and it's going to restart whatever it has to. All right, so I have hit another checkpoint, if you will, or question about what needs to be done. And so this one is for the configuration file for my DHCP. The reason it's prompting about this one is because I actually have a custom setup to have the Raspberry Pi act as a Wi-Fi access point. And how I do that, or the reason that I do that rather, is because when I take the traffic light out to the do demonstrations or something of that nature, I use my phone to be able to connect to it to be able to control what the traffic light is doing. And also give the option to use the computer if necessary to SSH in without having to connect all of the wires and so forth, like an Ethernet wire, and having to have a router or something of that nature to connect to it. So by default, it is giving me the option of N, as you see here, which is no. And that N option says to keep the currently installed version. If I wanted to wipe all of that out and start over, I could use the package maintainers version. The other two options here are to show the differences and to start a shell to examine the situation. So I'm going to go with the default, which is N, and leave it at that. So I'm just hit enter. I don't even have to type in. And then as you see, it is continuing on. All right, so after a while, I'm assuming maybe 30 to 45 minutes, I honestly lost track of time. The update has completed and it has committed all the file changes to my version control that I have set up with Etsy Keeper. So now I'm gonna go ahead and run sudo apt-get updates. I know it just downloaded everything, but I like to run that one last time and try to do one reboot all at once. I'm also going to do sudo apt-get upgrade, if I can type it correctly. It should not have any. Okay, there's a few things that are left here. So as it suggests, I'm going to do sudo apt-get auto remove, and I'm also include the purge option here because there's no sense in keeping files on your system that you don't have the packages for. And just the auto remove without the purge option will leave those like configuration files or setting files in place so that when you reinstall it, you have what you had from that last go. But if you're removing it and they're not going to need it anymore, I would suggest just go ahead and also removing the configuration files with it. So the purge option will do that as well. So go ahead and hit enter on that, and it's going to ask, am I sure? I'm going to go ahead and type Y for yes. And this is going to run, may take a little bit. All right, and all of that has completed. So I'm going to run, let's see, the next command I'm going to run is sudo apt-get auto clean. And that should clean off the file system with the old packages. And for the record, to confirm that everything has updated, I'm going to do a cat of etc/os release. And as you see, we now have Raspbian Buster as is shown here in the version, as well as the code name and also the pretty name. So the very last step is to reboot the Raspberry Pi. You can do that with sudo reboot, and it will automatically close out. Once your Raspberry Pi comes back online, then you'll SSH into it to confirm that everything has come back up successfully. All right, I believe the Raspberry Pi has come back online, so we actually go ahead and try to SSH into it and see. Yep. So you got a response from the SSH server on the Pi. And it looks like everything is good. Yep. And so all is good. So that will wrap it up for this particular video. If you have any questions about updating Raspbian on your particular Raspberry Pi, you can drop a comment down in the comment section below. If you have not already, please be sure to subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below and clicking the bell so that you can get additional notifications. And until the next time, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at almost ENGR, and peace out.